In this video, I'm going to talk about the high T lifestyle and how I implemented it into my life to get my testosterone levels over 1100 and to double my free testosterone levels. So the whole concept of this, and I got to get credit to Noah Ryan for putting this on my radar, is to give your body the signals that it needs to produce more testosterone. So we can look at two different scenarios. A man who lives in his basement, he doesn't get sunlight, he works a 9 to 5 or a corporate job that he doesn't like, he's not pushing himself, he's not training, he's not going to the gym, his interaction with women and intimacy is through porn, he doesn't get out much, and he eats processed food. So just let that picture sink into your awareness. Where in any of that does this guy need testosterone? He's not pursuing mates because he's just getting intimacy via his phone through porn. He's not competing because he's just in his basement punching in a clock, doing his job. He's not signaling his body he has abundance of nutrients because he's eating processed food. He's not getting sunlight. He's just not getting the signals from his lifestyle to produce testosterone. Let's look at an alternative scenario. This guy, he lives in his own house. He has an active lifestyle, he's training, he's getting outside, he's maybe going for short runs, he's active. He doesn't live the sedentary lifestyle where he's constantly sat down. He owns his own business, he's an entrepreneur, so he's constantly pushing himself for growth, putting himself in uncomfortable situations, taking risks, giving himself opportunities to grow. He's out pursuing women in the real world, he's not just scrolling on his phone watching porn. He plays sports, so he's competing not only in his business, but also in either martial arts or sports. For me, I really like playing soccer, so that's where I get my competition, but it can be any sport. He gets outside a lot, so he's getting sunlight exposure, his circadian rhythm is a lot more locked in, he's eating nutrient-dense food, therefore he has a lot of micronutrients in his diet, and he's signaling his body abundance. We don't need to prioritize survival, that is on point. We need to prioritize our evolutionary duty, which is proliferation, and testosterone is heavily correlated in that. So out of those two scenarios, which guy is giving his body more signals that he needs higher testosterone? Obviously the second guy. The way he's living his life is giving his body so many more signals that we need more testosterone to keep up and to actually succeed, to have the courage to keep pushing forward and living like this. So you can take all the supplements that you want, but if you're still living like the first guy, you're not gonna have high T. They've done studies and show that T boosting supplements usually only give like a 10 to 20% boost anyway. Most of the other stuff comes from having the lifestyle locked in and living this high T lifestyle. So I'm gonna go over a few pillars of this high T lifestyle. And again, shout out to Noah Ryan putting this on the map. I think this is a really amazing idea. I've added some things, I've subtracted, I've changed a few things just to fit my philosophy and my views. So pillar number one is romantic connections. So again, if we go back to the evolutionary standpoint of things, one, we need to survive. That's priority number one in every human's life. And that's how evolutionary, that's why we're here, is because we prioritize survival. But then once survival is met, the next evolutionary duty is to proliferate. And so for a man, that is to find a mate, that is to find a woman to impregnate and reproduce the species. Now things are a little bit different from a society standpoint, but we're still humans, we still have this hardwired into our DNA, and if we leverage it, it'll work. So how does this play into increasing our testosterone levels? They've done studies that show when men are around women they deem attractive, their testosterone increases. Because we're put in a scenario where we have to pursue and we have to beat out other mates to get this attractive girl or to get this woman that you deem attractive. So if we think about it, which man would have the better chance of getting the mate? We can go back to the two guys that we described earlier, the low T guy or the high T guy. Who's gonna have a better chance? Obviously the high T guy, because he's out and about and he's doing things, he's actually with the women. If those two men were in the same room, which guy wins? 10 times out of 10, the high T guy wins. Because of how he shows up, and then that then gives him the positive feedback loop of, I have high testosterone, I approach the woman, I have success with the woman, I repopulate, and that continues. It's a positive feedback loop. You get the boost from being around the woman, and then due to your higher testosterone levels, you have the physiological prerequisites to then put yourself into that uncomfortable situation of approaching and having that conversation and moving things forward. And because that high T guy did that, he's beating out the other men, all the other lower T men, and that in and of itself elevates his status and gives him more testosterone. It's a positive feedback loop. So how this related to me and how I got my testosterone really high, over 1100, was because I was just coming out of a 5-year relationship. We had broken up. It was the best for both parties. But I was starting to get into dating, and that was new for me. So I was putting myself in opportunities where I could pursue these women, whether it be at the gym, whether it be anywhere. whether it be just in public, even dating apps, because there was still the stimulus of pursuit. We weren't in person, but through matching and then sending messages and courting and pursuing them, I was still getting that dopamine hit. I was still getting that testosterone boost of like, oh, I just sent this message. It's maybe a little bit risky. It's just in that pursuing energy, which then gives my body like, oh, we're in the state of pursuing women. Let's ramp these resources up so that we can be successful with this. Pillar 2 is competition. This should make sense based on the previous example, but essentially beating out other challengers, whether that's to pursue a mate or even just in sports or even martial arts. Martial arts is probably the most obvious one. You're fighting for your life. Who's gonna win? High T man or low T man? Most likely the high T man. So if we're consistently putting ourselves into these competitive environments, sports is a really good outlet. We're competing, we're winning. We need testosterone in order to show up strong and get the result and get the win. And then when we do win, that increases testosterone again. It's all positive feedback loops. So what I was doing, I was already doing this before, but just really leaning into that competitive aspect of playing soccer on the weekends and sometimes even twice a week. Pillar 3 is gonna be physical exertion. So if we go back to the example of the two guys, one guy's training, one guy's very sedentary, who do you think is gonna get more testosterone? There's this element of intensity of pushing ourselves physically, which then gives our bodies like, oh, we're coming against challenge. We need more testosterone next time to be successful with that challenge as well. And so on the physical exertion piece for me, I was playing soccer, I was training, I was actually getting back into the gym after shoulder surgery, so my intensity was getting ramped up more and more. Just that physical exertion, back playing soccer, back training hard. Pillar number 4 is called social dominance. This is essentially leadership. This is being a leader in the group of friends. This is being a leader on the soccer field. This is being a leader in business. This is positioning yourself as the leader to therefore have a higher social status. Social status and testosterone are heavily correlated. So to illustrate this really well, in terms of social dominance, they did a study on men. They put them in a family sedan, which is like a normal car that they would probably drive, and then they put them in a Porsche. And the men in the Porsche, their testosterone levels drastically increased because driving around in a Porsche, you compare to a normal family sedan, your status is elevated. People see that, the men see that and know that this Porsche is an elevation in status. It's an elevation in how you appear to other people, how you appear to yourself as well. So that gave them that testosterone boost. So how can you do this in your life? Where can you show up as a leader? Where can you lead more into leadership? Where can you lead more into social dominance? Not in a domineering, tyrannical way, but more so just leadership. Because when you're the leader, people look up to you, people respect you. It just comes with the territory. And therefore that gives another positive feedback loop of testosterone because you are elevated in other people's eyes, and testosterone really likes that. Pillar number 5 is abundance. This comes from a stress management and a nutrition standpoint as well. Like survival is rule number 1. We need to make sure that we're taken care of and survive. If we are in survival mode, proliferation, hormones, those aren't necessarily needed because we're just focusing on survival. So if we are giving ourselves signals of scarcity, if we're chronically stressed and we have poor nutrition, we're not eating a micronutrient dense diet, we're giving ourselves signals of scarcity. And therefore our body is going to hinder testosterone production and make sure that we're staying alive. Shuttle resources more towards survival and away from proliferation, away from testosterone. And some people who are chronically stressed, that is putting them into such a fight or flight state that cortisol is going through the roof, and high cortisol absolutely tanks testosterone. Pillar number 6 is adversity. Again, this is the idea of putting yourself into challenge, putting yourself into uncomfortable environments, discomfort, so that you can have the courage to grow, break through whatever barrier, and become a beast. This adversity or challenge creates that need to be stronger, and if you move through it, and if you meet the adversity and you meet the challenge and you overcome it, positive feedback loop, more testosterone, that's the high T lifestyle. Pillar number 7 is adventure. This one is pretty interesting, and this one goes back to the hunter and gatherer days. Men were primarily hunters, so we had to go out and search for food, whether that be animals, berries, and that would put us into new environments that we'd have to navigate. That's from the evolutionary standpoint, but also from today's society. And this type of adventure, it's inherently challenging. So coming back to the adversity, if you're in new areas, there comes a challenge with that, especially in the old days. We didn't have GPS or anything like that. We were just running around eating food and we have to find our way back. That is inherently adversity. That is inherently challenging. that needs testosterone to function properly and to be good at it. Again, who do you think was the best hunter? High testosterone guy or low testosterone guy? And then also from today's society, travel signals social status. If you can't travel, you're more in that survivor mode. Traveling a lot signals that higher social status. Who travel? Usually the people with money, the people with success. They're traveling all over the world. They're having these incredible experiences. That signals social status. And then the social status signals more testosterone. Pillar number 8 is problem solving. This is where the dopamine connection with testosterone comes in heavy. So if we are coming against problems and we're solving them and we're winning them, that gives us more dopamine, that gives us more testosterone as well. And the last pillar is risk taking. Again, this is just putting yourself into uncomfortable situations, whether it be walking down the street, going up to a girl that you think is attractive and talking to her and then asking for her number. Maybe it's taking a risk in business where you don't know if this is gonna work, but you're gonna do it anyway. Being more in this dangerous energy where you need to have your wits about you, where you need to have a decent amount of testosterone to be successful. Essentially, if you take more risks, there's more opportunity for more success, more reward, which then also increases your social status. There's actually a study that showed that UK day traders, the ones who had higher morning testosterone, they actually made more money. Their profit and loss was actually higher. They didn't lose more money, they actually lost less than the guys who were playing it safe with lower testosterone. So that shows they were taking more risks, but they were also calculated risks. They weren't just like crazy risks, and therefore they made more money, they took more risks, they had more success, and their testosterone went up. So that is the high T lifestyle. That was 9 pillars, and these were all things that I was implementing into my life. Getting back into dating, getting more into competition with soccer and just business. I had more bandwidth after getting out of that relationship to dive harder into my business and to take more risks. In terms of abundance, I was managing my stress. Getting out of that relationship was very stressful. Managing stress levels, improving my nutrition and my absorption. So all of these things I was also implementing into my life. Physical exertion, getting back into the gym. Social dominance, I was really leading into how can I show up as the man that I was meant to be? How can I lead more? How can I lead my clients? How can I lead my friends? How can I lead my acquaintances? Just people on the street that I see. And I think these were the things that really turned the corner for me and allowed me to double my free testosterone and get my total testosterone levels over 1100. So I don't see many people talking about this, but I think it's one of the biggest things that you can actually do in terms of your life. Tangible things that you can do outside of just like test boosting supplements that probably won't even really get you the result that you want anyway. Really locking into this high T lifestyle and living your life in a way that tells your body that we need to produce more testosterone. We need high levels of testosterone to keep up with this demanding lifestyle. So if you found this interesting and you found this helpful, give this video a like, definitely subscribe, and make sure that you watch all 6 videos of these so you can see exactly how I got my testosterone levels over 1100, and I'll see you in the next one.